introducing our first guest today. We have Farhana Mukith, who is a barrister at 12 KBW Chambers. That stands for 12 King's Bench Walk. I don't know why I'm stumbling on that, but of course we'll go to her. Welcome to the show.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me.
Very welcome. And how are you today?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. So tell me a little bit about what you do at the moment.
I'm, as you said, a barrister at 12 King's Bench Walk.
Yes.
I specialise in civil law, so personal injury mainly. And as a barrister, I spend a lot of my time going to court, but also drafting paperwork.
Right. And I understand you were called to the bar in 2013.
Yes.
So that's a long time. So what made you want to become barrister?
There wasn't actually a defining factor as such that made me want to become a barrister. I'm first generation British Bangladeshi. I'm the eldest in my family. And my family, I didn't come from a background where my family had gone to university or anything. So there wasn't anyone in particular that I looked to and thought, that person's become a barrister, I want to follow them. So during my A-levels, I was head girl. I don't know if you know what that is. It's when you've got a team of prefects underneath you, you represent the student body, and you spend a lot of time kind of fighting for the students against the teachers. And It was the teachers that said, I think you'd be a good lawyer, you should give it a shot. So I went on to do my LLB, I studied law, and I got a first. I thought, alhamdulillah, yes. And I thought, okay, maybe that was a fluke. I'll try, I'll give it another shot. And then I did a master's in law and I got a first in that as well, a distinction. And it's at that point that I thought, okay, you know, the bar or the solicitor route is that's the choice you have to make. Which one are you going to choose? And the difficulty with the bar is once you start the bar course, you only have 5 years, as you of course know, within which to secure a contract as a barrister. And if you don't secure it within 5 years, you know, you'd have to do that training again.
Yes.
And it costs around £20,000 for a year.
A lot of money, yes.
So it's a lot of money. So it was, you know, am I going to take this gamble to become a barrister or not? And alhamdulillah, I was offered a scholarship, both from my university, UCL, and from my inn, Lincoln's Inn.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, alhamdulillah. So after having that investment in me, I was like, right, you know, I'm going to pursue the bar. So it was kind of those events, my teachers at secondary school, and then getting the scholarships that really kind of shaped me towards that.
Of course. And going on from that, what was the support like from home when you made that decision? You know, I want to be a barrister. What was it like?
My parents thought, what's a barrister? they had no idea. I think my mum was just waiting for me to finish studying so she could get me married. She was like, what kind of degree is this? You're just studying forever.
Yes.
And I don't think they quite understood what I was studying. As I mentioned, I was the first in my family to go to university to study at all, really. Yeah. So to do a master's, to do the bar course, they couldn't really wrap their head around it. And it's only really the day I was called to the bar and I put on my wig and I put on my gown and my mum was like, burst into tears. She's like, oh, this is what you've been doing all these years. So, yeah, they were supportive, but I don't think they quite understood it at the time, really.
Of course. Now, to what extent would you say your academic achievements influenced your career path at that point?
I think academia, especially with the bar, it only gets you halfway up to that journey.
Yes.
Because in order to be a lawyer, you have to be academically brilliant. You have to be.
Yes.
But what's distinct about the bar is you also need to have a number of other qualities. You need to be able to have the confidence to speak in front of a judge if you want to pursue the criminal bar, to be able to speak in front of a jury. You have to have skills of persuasion to be able to persuade them that your case is right. And you have to have sheer resilience as well to kind of withstand scrutiny, to get told off by a judge and keep going back for more. So yes, academia shaped part of the journey, but I think the rest of it was shaped by just life experiences, whether it was doing work experience with barristers, shadowing them around court, seeing if this is for me, or as I said, having teachers kind of say to you, I think you've got the skills that you need.
Of course, and that reinforced obviously the idea that you were right for the bar.
Yeah.
And that said, of course, I understand a lot of students I've spoken to, at least, they don't have the chance to go outside and do mini pupilages. I mean, they're unpaid work. So what can students do to sort of work on those sorts of skills that they need at the bar?
That's a great question because, as I said, you can go to university, you can get a first-class degree.
Yes.
And I actually sit on the pupillage committee, so I look through CVs. I'm on the interview panel as well. And what we look for is that experience. And a lot of students will say, but I can't afford not to work. I can't afford to do an unpaid internship. But there are other things that you can do. So whilst you're studying, you can participate in mooting competitions, debating competitions. In terms of paid work, there is paid advocacy work that you can do. I believe county court advocates,
Yes.
LPC law, it's not paid very well. But it's still some money, but also you're getting the experience. And that's what you really do need as a barrister.
Of course. And of course, you've said that you've specialised in civil sort of areas of law. What made you decide civil and not criminal?
I actually used to love criminal. I used to love studying crime because it was so fun and it was so exciting. But as I said, after studying, what I would do is spend my summers doing work experience, so shadowing. And I tried my hand at family, crime. I tried everything. And by tried, I mean, follow barristers around court to see what I liked. And being in prison, Belmarsh prison, I used to spend every Wednesdays going to Belmarsh prison, meeting with prisoners. And I hated it. I thought, this is fun to read about. But dealing with it day to day, it just wasn't my environment. So I knew that civil law is the kind of environment I wanted to pursue. Civil crime, family, immigration, it's very heavy on the heart.
Of course,
It is very heavy to shut off at work and then come home and try not to think about it.
Yes.
Whereas with civil work, I do a lot of defendant work where I represent the insurance companies. So it's a lot easier to kind of emotionally handle. And I enjoyed taught law in university anyway. So
well, there you go. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Of course, you practice also many areas of laws within the civil aspect of it. How do you manage all of that workload? Like, is there a sort of special way that you manage that workload?
Experience.
10
years ago when I first started, it would take me hours and hours and hours to prepare a case. I'd have to work all evening. I'd have to work all weekends just really trying to get my head around the papers. 10 years down the line, I know exactly what I'm looking for. My brain is able to kind of digest large volumes of information. So it does get a lot easier, but that's with time, and that's with any job, really.
Yes.
So I think it's just experience for me.
Of course. And other than work, of course, what are your interests outside of work? What do you enjoy the best?
Oh gosh, how long do you have? I have too many interests, so many.
Let's start with one. What's something you really enjoy doing outside of work?
I love to garden, and I love growing Bengali vegetables. So I've got khobor in my garden at the moment.
Yes.
And then that links to my second favourite interest, which is cooking. I love cooking traditional food. And so, to grow things in my garden, then to be able to cook it at home, I just love it. I love making time for that. But it's not only cooking and gardening vegetables, but also flowers. So I love, growing my own flowers, making my own bouquets and arrangements.
That's nice.
I know I could become it's either a barrister or a florist, basically. So garden-related stuff. But I also like exercising, so I love going to the gym.
Oh, that's amazing.
I used to box as well for years.
Wow, you've got many interests.
Too many interests. Too many.
But I mean, does that help, especially being at the bar, because you've got so many cases and it's back and forth between court and home and then chambers. Do these sorts of interests help around the work life that you have? Like, how do you balance it?
You need it.
Yeah.
You need to have a work-life balance. Otherwise, your mind won't be fresh. You will be too bogged down. And it's, in fact, something we look at with the students when they make applications. It's interesting because people think, OK, so long as I've got the grades and all I'm doing in my life is working, that's all we care about. But actually, one of the criteria that we have is interests outside of work to be able to show us you're a well-rounded person, because these skills are transferable. You having interest shows that you've got interpersonal skills.
Yes.
You can persuade a judge with those skills. You can pick up on things. So how I make time for it is, first of all, I'm self-employed. So as a barrister, I can take time off. I can call up my clerk and say, I'm spending my day gardening today. Book me off today. So this week in particular, for instance, I've had back-to-back trials all week, and it has been exhausting.
I can imagine.
So yes, the job involves a lot of travelling. So you're not based in one court only. I was, I think, in Manchester on Monday, Winchester on Tuesday. You know, you're traveling a lot. So you need to make time for your extracurricular activities, or it's just, it's going to be too overwhelming otherwise.
Of course. And talking about overwhelming, sometimes at work you have bad days, or sometimes something's happened and you're just like, oh my God, what do you do in situations like that? How do you deal with the workload, the stress sometimes when things don't go the way you want it to?
That's a factor that could go wrong in any job, isn't it? It could be anything. And again, I think when you're very junior in your role, it's easy to think, I'm not cut out for this, maybe I'm not the right person for this job. But equally, I think having a support network is really important at times like that. Having, you know, colleagues that you can go to. It's difficult to try and explain it to non-lawyers because it's like you need to then explain the law and explain what went wrong and why it's so stressful. But when you can go to your colleagues and say, oh, this happened in court today, a colleague might then share a, you know, war story themselves and say, oh, I've been in front of that judge and he was quite rough on me. Don't take it personally. He's just grumpy. Or, you know, so having that support network, I think, is what helps you get through the bad days.
Is there any such obstacle you faced in your career till now that you think, you know, I've learned from that sort of obstacle that you've faced?
I think an obstacle that a lot of Asian women in particular, and it's also Muslim women face, might just be the colour of our skin. And it's really sad because very early on in my career, I would often go into court and they would ask me, oh, are you a witness? They would never even assume I'm the barrister. They would never think to ask, are you the barrister? Even though I'm dressed in a suit. They just assume you must be a witness, you know? And I was like, actually, I'm the barrister and this white gentleman behind me is my witness, you know? So that is a significant obstacle. And I think early on I was too shy to speak up about it. And now I am very vocal about it. And I will challenge it if somebody, you know, makes presumptions about me, which are unfounded and clearly just based on my skin colour. So I think that's definitely a hurdle that a lot of ethnic minority women face.
Of course. And I mean, I think this is a question I want to ask for myself. For those who are struggling with the communication styles or the advocacy rather, what can students like myself do to sort of improve on those skills? Because I mean, of course, you've been in court every day, I'm sure, since. And what has helped you?
So there are a number of things I would recommend. First of all, mooting helps.
Yes.
So that's competitions where you pretend to be a barrister and, you know, you escalate up and win a trophy if you're successful. Second is your inn. So as a barrister, you're a member of an Inns of Court. My inn is Lincoln's Inn. And they have a huge support network where they provide you a mentor who will help kind of with your public speaking. They do a lot of public speaking opportunities as well, where they will give you one-on-one feedback on maybe this isn't good, maybe this is good. Certain things, like someone might have a tic if they're just sitting there like tapping their hands or fidgeting. It's the tiniest thing that you might not realise you're doing, but you need someone else to just look at you objectively. And that's definitely worth it because the first round of a lot of interviews for pupillage are just advocacy based. So, you know, you may be really good on paper, but if you haven't sold yourself in that advocacy, that's it. That's your opportunity gone. So it's definitely worthwhile making the most of those kind of schemes, I think.
Of course. No, thank you for that advice. I really appreciate it. And of course, finally, I must ask, if there's any message that you could give to your younger self and, of course, the audience watching, what would you advise?
I don't know if this is very particular to me, but my pet name that my husband calls me is Terminator. And he calls me that because I am like a machine. I am so focused on the goal. For me, it's all about executing the goal. So when I look back at my younger self, it was very much, I'm determined to get a first. I want to achieve this. I want to tick off my list of what I want to achieve. And I think looking back, I wish I had enjoyed it a bit more. I wish I had enjoyed the journey a bit more because it is a price to pay. Yes, it can be your greatest strength to be determined and to be driven.
Yes.
But equally, that youth that you have, that time that you have as a student, for instance, the carelessness, that you won't get that time back. So it's really important to enjoy it. And I think particularly in this day and age where there is a focus on mental health, mental well-being, I think it's very important to kind of, I wish I did take a bit more time for me. And I try to do that now, in fact,
of
which
course.
is why I have my gardening days. And
Which, of course, I wish you best of luck with that. And of course, I would love
you.
to see the flower bouquets and everything else.
Yes, I'll bring you on next time.
Inshallah.